Hi, I'm Kathy Van Ness. I'm the General Manager of the Golden Door, and I'm excited to be here tonight with Tony Buettner. He is the Senior Vice President of the Business Development of Blue Zones, which I got to meet you in Aspen at the Brain Institute, which is an incredible experience for me to learn what's going on in today's world with our minds, not just our bodies and our skin, but what's happening with our minds. And we're going to get to talk a little bit about that and overall health. The best science tells us that the human body can last about 90 years. Think about that. But life expectancy in this country is approximately 78 years. So somewhere along the line, we've lost 12 years. And that's a lot of years. These are years that we could add by using the knowledge that's gained from blue zones. And you're going to ask, what is the blue zones? And so we're going to get there. There's a lot of confusion about what really helps us live longer. Should you be running marathons or doing yoga? Should you eat organic meats or should you be eating tofu? When it comes to supplements, how many should you take? How about those hormones or multiple things that you take to try to be healthier? And does purpose play into it? Our spirituality, our love, or how we socialize? Blue Zone's approach to finding the secrets of longevity was to team up with the National Geographic, a wonderful organization, and the National Institute on Aging to find 4 demographically confined areas on the planet that are geographically defined as blue zones. So now you're ready. They don't know yet. They might know. You're going to define what is a blue zone for us.
Yes, indeed. I'd be happy to. Thank you very much.
I had to get you. We had to let them know pretty much what we're doing.
Sure. So blue zones are demographically confirmed, geographically defined places around the world where people are living on average to age 100 10 times the rate that we do. They suffer only about a sixth the rate of chronic diseases that we have, and live long, happy lives. When they get sick, they usually die within nine months. Whereas here in America, on average, we suffer 10 years fighting a chronic disease.
It's incredible, huh? So tell our guests where the blue zones are. This was very interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is an ongoing 15-year worldwide longevity study. We found 5 areas actually, and we're close to confirming a 6th. America's blue zone is in Loma Linda, California, where you have a population that lives on average 10 years longer, men about 9 years, women about 11 years longer. Just an American city like anywhere else. Okinawa, Japan, you have the longest lived women. They live 12 good years longer than we do. Sardinia, Italy, you have the longest lived men. They live 10 years longer. An island in Greece called Ikaria, about 10 miles off the coast of Turkey. On average, they live as a whole population 8 years longer. And then the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, where you find a population that has 3 times a better chance to live to healthy age 90, as we do here in America.
It's incredible. Loma Linda.
Loma Linda, you take literally the San Bernardino Freeway,
right?
You take the exit, there's a Del Taco on the right, a Wiener
Arby's,
Hut on
for
the
gosh
left.
sakes, Arby's.
You've arrived.
And I read the book, I read all your things to understand why. So it's one of the things that's interesting, so I'm sort of jumping around a bit, because each person, there's lots of commonality, clearly, but there's lots of non-commonalities.
That's right.
So what is the, you'll hold this later, I'm going to go now. What is the non-commonality? Every city had something they were doing different, like certainly from Italy, from Japan to Loma Linda, there were characteristics that were different.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I certainly do. I'll talk about Okinawa, where this concept of moais, which are committed social networks, and just noticing how people are congregating tonight. You see these groups of people, but in Okinawa, they're matched at about age 4 or 5, and they go through life together, so built-in friendships. Wow. That was very unique. In the Nicoya Peninsula, you find men that are marrying women that are about 20 years younger than them on average and living these long lives. You go to Sardinia, you have this very sarcastic population, and then in Loma Linda, you almost have no alcohol consumption. We saw a little bit, but in the other 4 blue zones, you see people drinking on average about a glass of wine a day with friends and family and a healthy meal.
So do you think that we need a course correction here in America?
I think,
Sort of what I would call like a mid-course correction.
well, I do. I do. I think that we're busy. I think with technology over the last 30, 40 years, things have just sped up, and we forget these time-honored learnings that are out there that we can learn from the longest lived population, that we can learn from our parents and our grandparents. And you find those commonalities, and they make perfect sense.
It's so interesting because you almost saw it in an idyllic state, and when you went back to read each of your states, it was all quite logical. Like for instance, in the blue zone, there are 9 factors, which of course you know these by heart, but I'm going to read them to our guest. The 9 factors of longevity. 1 was move naturally. 2 was know your purpose. That's really important. 3, kick back. 4, eat less. 4, eat less meat. Drink in moderation. 7, have faith. 9, have the power of love and stay social. It's interesting, it's that simple.
It really is.
So why is it then so hard?
The challenge is, how do you set your life up, your environment, that it nudges you into remembering those things and doing those things. And that's what we have gone from learning to trying to help people and families and organizations and even communities adopt these very simple Power 9 to set their life up to be successful.
So before all of you leave, we're going to have the Power 9 typed up on a beautiful card and sent to your rooms, because it really is that simple, that it makes sense. In the blue zones, it mentioned 4 foods to eat and 4 foods to avoid.
Yes, absolutely.
Sort of so what are they? For my guests.
So 4 foods to eat, 4 foods not to eat. The longest lived populations eat typically 95% of their diet is plant-based. So meat, we didn't see any. Believe it or not, in any of the blue zones we saw very little cow's milk, very little dairy. I'm sorry, that's...
No, but
that's
you know, we talked about cow's milk when reading your book. It's difficult for Americans to get off cow's milk.
It is. We see a consumption of cheese, primarily a pecorino cheese, but that's made from sheep's milk.
Right.
So very little dairy. What we found so interesting about the meat consumption, we looked at 150 dietary studies in the 5 blue zones, and ironically we found on average they only eat 5 portions a month. It's usually a celebratory event. And what was so interesting, that portion size was so important. On average, about 3 ounces, so the size of a deck of cards, similar to the wonderful meals that we're having here.
Well, and the foods that you claim to eat and to not eat were quite simple. The sugars, the Diet Cokes, the carbonated drinks, you know, what I think it was cured meats.
Yeah.
Things
Processed
like
meats,
processed meats, exactly, processed foods, and things to eat are whole, you know, fruits, vegetables, nuts. We sort of know all these things.
That's right.
And especially being here at the Golden Door, this is exactly how we teach our guests. But America's getting unhealthier.
Yes, a couple just incredible things have come out in the last month. 68% of Americans are now obese or overweight. Diabetes is skyrocketing. They think within the next 10 years, 40% of people will have diabetes. And this is the one that gets me, because I have a 21-year-old daughter. For the first time in human history, it's projected that our children will live less long lives than we will. And I just think that is sad, because you ask yourself, is it because we don't love our kids as much as our parents loved us? And of course, that's not the answer. It's just 50% of what we're consuming now, calories, come from junk food in America.
Well, and you did some studies in America. I happen to live in Manhattan Beach, so I was kind of fascinated about the Manhattan Beach study. And you did a study in Minnesota, and I'm just going to mention one, Manhattan Beach.
Sure.
And tell our guests, our audience, the differences of what you learned in those 2 environments.
Yeah, absolutely. So after we came back from our research and the book came out, AARP asked us if we could replicate a blue zone here in America. So we put together about 600 evidence-based strategies that permanently change environments, the buildings we live, work, play, and eat in our homes, helping people find purpose and connecting. And we did a pilot in Albert Lea, Minnesota, population about 20,000. After 13 months, city workers' health care claims dropped 41%. Tobacco usage in the county down 17%. People walking, biking more. And Albert Lea now is known around the world as this innovator in population health. We then wanted to expand, and we chose the beach cities, where you have this incredibly healthy community, but one that wanted to continue to be the healthiest place in America. Using the Gallup Healthways Wellbeing Index, we discovered that it was the second most stressed out city in America. So I think that is the big learning between those two cities. But what both of them showed us, by implementing evidence-based nudges and defaults and policy and strategies throughout a community, you can literally move the needle of population health.
Well, and we have a conversation here a lot about the fact that, the human life used to be, in 200 years or 1,000 years ago, a woman maybe lived to 30. Yeah. She would be a child, have her menstrual period, have a baby, and pretty much her life was coming to the end of her life. And we know today for sure that we're all now living, at least in our ages, maybe not the children's ages, we're living to 90s and 100s. It's much more popular to see someone 100 years old than it ever was before. But the part that's the struggle, which I found interesting in your story, is it's not just about what's in your body or in your skin, it's also this part. How much in the world of Blue Zones did you think or talk about mindfulness and comparing it to the different societies? Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how much did that weigh in on having a longer life?
Well, what was the first time we were exposed to it was in really our first trip in Okinawa, Japan. You hear people talking about their ikigai. And when we had that translated, it simply meant the reason you get up in the morning. So a mission statement or a purpose. When you look at Americans,
I like that.
you find that the second most dangerous year of life here in America is the year you retire. And so you wonder, well, why is that? Do we start doing all these crazy things and these wrong behaviors? But it simply comes down to this purpose, a sense of purpose. And research shows that people that have that mission statement and live it every day live 7 years longer than those that don't.
So like when we wake up in the morning, we should sort of stretch, and we always say wiggle, 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 and you should say, okay, you should say something positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's sort of that simple, right? Like,
That
oh my
and-
God, today's going to be...
Yeah, that, and I think just waking up with, and I think you do it here.
Yeah, we do. It's hard not to wake up here with a
People
koi
wake
fish
up here
and not be positive.
They have this incredible sense of purpose of
Yeah.
being here with these wonderful people, and they know what their day looks like, and they know what to look forward to, and they know that they're mindfully living their life in a positive way, actually mimicking the Power Nine.
Exactly. And I think also there's this unique thing that happens, at least at the Golden Door. We are not a place when you go to a dining experience, think about it, put into a wall with your Kindle by yourself. It's actually a family dining experience. And if I was to tell guests, oh, you're going to come here and make friends, everybody say, oh, I don't need any more friends. But when you ultimately do come here and each of our guests meet each other, it's incredibly rewarding.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that feeling of calmness and camaraderie and bonding is very difficult to explain when you leave, right? Very difficult to explain. And it changes people in the most incredible ways. But why can we not get that when we're in our normal life? It's not like we don't have great friends, but it's just different, right? When it's here, there's something treasured about it.
It's so important.
Why is
Something
that?
called the Framingham study established that 30 years ago, the average American had 3 best friends they could count on a good day and bad day. And that friend would listen. And today we're down to, on average, 1.5. In other words, we're becoming this isolated community. And this concept of social networks, which is so incredible to me, is they are as contagious as a cold. So if your 3 best friends smoke, you have a 160% greater chance of smoking. It's the same for loneliness, depression, but imagine, as you're doing here, that these behaviors are positive. They literally flow through these social networks.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very interesting. We have an interesting thing with our guests that it's hard to appreciate that. When our guests first arrive on Sunday night, the tables are very long, and we share the reasons we come. And as the week goes on, the tables shrink, and so the groups shrink. It's actually quite interesting. No, it's really quite behind the scenes. And then as the week goes back up again, you end back up at the big table. But imagine the relationships from the table I don't know anybody to the table at the end of the week that I know everybody, and from the tables in the middle, what has transpired. And so there's a giant conversation going on, at least with us, that this ability to touch people and have feeling will help our minds, especially as women, live longer.
Absolutely. The work that we did in Sardinia, we found that that these people are living extraordinary ages there, and we dug in deep, and you find out the reason. One of the main reasons there is because they live with their extended families. Here in America, it's not everyone, of course, but it seems that we lose our social equity at about our mid-20s, and as people age, we put our aging parents in a home, and we wonder why they don't last there. Research shows that when you keep your aging parents close, being in your own home or close, where there's that interaction, that not only do they live on average 4 to 6 years longer, but the amazing thing is the grandmother effect, the children of these extended families suffer lower rates of infant mortality and have higher levels of health. So it is contagious, that family circle.
I'd love for you to share with our guests an interesting story. You were on some of the expeditions,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
I'd love for you to share what was one of your most interesting stories when you were traveling with the National Geographic and discovering these blue
Yeah,
zones.
thank you for asking that. So I'm going to share two short ones. So we met this gentleman by the name of Ellsworth Wareham. He was 97 years old, multimillionaire, and in Loma Linda. And he was, when we met him, he was digging a trench to build a fence. And we asked him, "You're a millionaire, why aren't you having someone just build this fence for him?" He said, "Well, they quoted me $6,000, and for that price, I was going to do it myself." So we watched him for 3 days dig footings, mix concrete, put up stringers, build this fence, and on the fourth day, he ended up in the emergency room of the hospital. The interesting part was he was in open heart surgery, but it wasn't him being operated on. He assists at age 97 on 20 open heart surgeries a month. And then we met this gal by the name of Marge Jatan at 104 years old. She starts her day with a prune juice shooter.
Oh my gosh.
She, like here, she'll go lift some weights, she gets on a bike, and then she actually still drives, gets in her 1987 root beer colored Cadillac, and still volunteers for 7 organizations. I asked her, "Marge, why are you working so hard?" She says, "Somebody's got to take care of them old folks." And the day that we left her, I was in the back seat of her car, and she turned to Dan, and she said, "You know what, Dan?" She said, "I feel sexier at 104 years old than I did at 103 years old." And I thought that was great.
I love that.
Absolutely.
That's such a great story. Well, you mentioned in one of your things in the Top Power 9 that purpose is one of the main components of this longevity.
Yes.
What's your purpose?
Well, I would have to say my wife is my purpose. We come from a
Love
very
that she gets to be with us this week.
yeah. Family has been very important to us. I come from a family of 4 boys. Our family is still very close. My parents are in their early 80s, and every birthday, every holiday, we're together. It's all about family first for us, and purpose for me. I lived in the Caribbean for 20 years. I owned this beautiful gift shop on the beach. I had this great little beach bar. I lived a great life, but to be able to travel around the world and to share the simple learnings of the longest lived populations and see our business grow. Now we're in 9 states and 39 communities, over 2 million people live in American blue zones
Oh, wow,
right
that's
now
incredible.
today. So to be part of affecting even one person's life in a positive way is a powerful
So
purpose.
that's a good question. What's next for Blue Zones? I mean, how many here heard of Blue Zones before Golden Door? Oh my gosh, that's really good. That's amazing. But so what's next?
Well,
Do enough people understand and have these stories to be able to show clear comparisons of longevity and not?
yeah, so I guess right now there's 3 of us brothers that are in the business. We have a speakers bureau. We do about 160 speeches around the world right now, getting the message out. Our goal, there's been lots of shiny things coming at us, people that want to license the brand and do all these crazy things. We believe that affecting as many lives as we can in a positive way is best delivered right now in our communities. There's something that we developed called the life radius approach. We simply know that people spend 90% of their time in a 5-mile life radius of where they live and where they work. So what we focus on is not these behavioral things that come and go. What we look at is how we can permanently or semi-permanently change environments so that people, wherever they go, are simply nudged into the healthier choice.
Are you seeing the environments change from this? Of
We
course?
are. The most amazing story that to date, that in my opinion, is in Redondo Beach, one of the beach cities. When we got there 6 years ago, childhood obesity was at about 20%, which is pretty low. They had been measuring incoming 5th graders for 20 years. It stayed about 20%. In the 5 years that we worked with that community, their childhood obesity went down to 9.7%. And the 6th year when they were in their sustainability, it's down to below 8%. So you think about, well, why is that so important? But imagining having a child that's healthy and going through life healthy, what that means for family, for their life, the life of their family. So I think that's just really incredible. So for us, it's expanding Blue Zones here in America. We'd love to do a project in Europe and overseas. We're in talks in Dubai to potentially do something there, in the Netherlands and Germany. I've had some calls from Brazil. So I think for us, it's continuing to be true to our approach to do permanent changes and help people, because it's not the things that you do for a week or 2 or starting something and not failing. It's if you can just start one thing that you do every day, that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck.
Well, at the end of every single interview, we have this very special question that I ask every interview. We actually isolate them. And it's, no one will ask you this question again, believe me.
I can't wait.
I know, exactly. Can you give a golden nugget? I've given them a couple golden nuggets, but I want you to give a special golden nugget to our guests tonight that they can take home with themselves. What would that golden nugget be?
Yeah. So many gold nuggets. I want to make sure I get the right one. We believe that social networks are the most important thing, because they're not a journey for a week or 2. Friendships last forever. So for us, it's broadening your social network and tapping into those people as your personal board of directors. They'll support you in good times and bad times, and we know that good friendships last forever. And so it would be find your moai, expand your moai, and live a longer, happier life.